Welcome to the JAMODI podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is JAMODI, just a matter of doing it.
The JAMODI podcast is powered by Sideline Interactive. Sideline Interactive is the leading manufacturer for high-quality, innovative scoring tables and LED video display boards that help coaches and schools bring more excitement to fans, create huge fundraising opportunities, and make their jobs easier. Visit sidelineinteractive.com to check out their amazing products.
You mentioned your assistant coaches a few times and the value that you have in your staff. And man, I can already tell that you're way farther ahead than I am as far as being able to delegate and having a good system or plan for that. My guys are part-time here at Faith, so there is always this feeling of like, I want to do as much as possible so that they can just show up and give their very, very best after coming from their real job. But with you and your assistants, how do you figure out what responsibilities to give and to delegate?
You know, I first of all, I've been very fortunate in both schools, Brock and Argyle. I've been able to hire every one of my assistants. And I've had some great ones. You know, coaches have been head coaches and won championships. And so I've been very fortunate there. And then when I have opportunities to add or a coach leaves, I'm very picky about what I'm looking for. I want, I think, as much as we want cohesion with our team, I think cohesion and respect with your coaching staff is extremely important too. And then I look to see what they can bring. One of my assistants, when we go offensive groups in practice, they're going to have, a varsity group. One might be with posts, one might be with point guards, the other just wings. They're going to have specific roles, and I'm just going to see what kind of strengths that they have. I had one coach that came in here a few years ago with me, and he was a great dribble drive coach. And so, that part of the offense and stuff he put on. And then I let him work with guards and that. And then my varsity assistant this past year, she switched over and did post play. And she's only about 5'4". But she was she had worked at Converse Judson, who has some good posts, has some great drills. And so she took over our post, and our post game was a big key to our success. And so I want them to have responsibilities in practice with the varsity. I want them to feel like they're a part of that. And then when it gets into the game, it's the same thing. Our kids know when, Coach Nolan, who was our varsity assistant, they know which scouting report she worked on, which one's Coach Tabor. And then I'll let them, if they worked on the scouting report, when they go over with the team, I'll let them be the ones that teach the plays. Mm-hmm. I've never felt like I want to be this coach that controls everything. And I think several voices is not bad. Yeah. Now, my voice is going to be the one that they're going to hear the most. But I just think when coaches feel like, hey, I'm a part of this, our junior high coach, who used to be my varsity assistant, and then went to be our middle school coordinator. When the playoffs roll around, I get her to come up here to practice as much as she can because she has a good point. And then she goes to playoff games with me. And so that's just something I think using your assistant coaches, recognize them any chance you get. I mean, if you have an award that you can get or, always, I think coaches being interviewed after the game, I think that's important. You should always recognize everybody involved in success.
Yeah.
What they played in a part of that. And so, I've been very fortunate to have good assistant coaches, and it's made me a better coach too.
Man, I think the level of confidence that you have in your own ability to allow other voices, like I think that takes a lot of humility, but then I was trying to think of why don't coaches allow more? Why do they feel the need to dominate? Maybe there is a lack of confidence that if I give up control, if I allow others to bring, will my view in the player's eyes shift? And I think that's something we've got to control that feeling if it comes up of I need to be the one that's always setting the tone, that always it has the loudest voice. Man, I think maybe a sign of maturity as a coach. And I don't think I'm there yet. Maturity as a coach is the amount of time your assistants are allowed to have in practice, owning drills, teaching in drills, speaking to the group. I think there's a level of mastery that shows in the head coach.
And that's just probably some coaches that don't do that as much. They maybe either didn't have, very good assistants. Maybe they had very few assistants when they were going in. So they're just used to that kind of control. But, I just know with me, I create a practice plan either the night before, every morning, every drill to the minute is on that. And then beside it has what coach is running it. And then I send that out way in advance. So those coaches come to practice and they know, hey, offensive groups, I've got 12 minutes. Which coach has won the most competition days? And sometimes we'll have a whole practice of competitions and I'll let one draft, hey, which team do you want? So, that's just fun things to do that, you can get your coaches involved. The kids love it. And so it's just, I think coaches are kind of like players that, if you praise them and give them some ownership in it, they're going to buy in and be really good for you.
And a big nugget that you had there was to set them up for success by giving them amount of time to figure out what they want to do. So instead of they show up to practice, oh, by the way, I want you to take them for 10 minutes here. And they're, oh, all right. You set maybe your coaches up for failure. Ultimately, your players may pay the price for lack of organization. So I feel like that's something you do really well to empower them, give them a chance to be successful.
Yeah, that's been very beneficial. And I love that part of it. And just, I'll just send them a text or they'll get the emails and say, hey, practice friends are ready. And I've never had to worry about a coach because, yeah, you're right. If you just say, if you have an assistant say, hey, go work with the guard, they're going to say, well, what do you want to work on? I don't want that part. That way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I want you to, hey, a lot of times, if it's working with medicine or weighted balls, they'll already have that stuff laid out. That part is just, a part of practice that I like to be as efficient as possible. I think with girls basketball, that's important. Girls don't want to be out there 2 to 3 hour practices. They want to go, we go about an hour and a half, but there is every minute is scripted of here's what we're going to do. And a lot of practices, when the practice is over, it's within, 2 or 3 minutes of that. And I might have 10 minutes allocated for a competition and be 2 minutes behind and say, hey, tell my clock keeper, let's go 8, but I think kids know if they work hard, they're going to get done at a certain time. They love that, especially girls.
Great point. And I feel like they don't want to waste their time. Same way that coaches don't want to waste time, I don't think players do either. When I ask players about select practice, I try to be very active and interested in their select ball practices. I encourage them to play. So I need to learn about how that's going for them. And part of it is, hey, tell me about practice, how it's going. A lot of players say we don't do much. Now, I don't feel like they're just standing, like they show up and literally they don't do anything. But I think you could translate that as there's a lot of wasted time, a lot of downtime. And that's not a knock on select coaches. That's just my players don't go to other public, or other schools practices. So this is my only time to kind of hear what they think and see. And I think that's something we have to be conscious of. Like, don't allow our players to leave going, it's kind of like it just was a waste of time. No, like for that hour 15, hour and a half, 2 hours, we held their feet to the fire. There was a plan and we were moving quickly. And you know what? Like, we may not win every game, but we can give them opportunities to improve every day. And I think that's appreciated by players and by their parents.
I would agree with you. And that's something, I'm also the assistant AD here. And so we talk to all our coaches that you need to have a practice plan. I mean, I just think you need to know, it doesn't have to be topped out, but you need to have a plan on what you're trying to accomplish. I know some coaches are good enough to have it all in their head and just kind of go. That has not ever been me, but you and I probably have seen other coaches, AAU, like you were talking about coaches and others run practice. And it's, it's like, oh my gosh, they're wasting, they just spent 10 minutes on a drill and the kids got 3 reps up. That's, and I take a lot of pride, when college coaches come here to watch practice in the fall and spring, I love it when they can say, hey, we just got back from this school. Y'all's practice was a lot better. And man, we got something out of this. And I take a lot of pride in that. I think that, I think that goes back to your program and your culture. What does it look like? And setting that expectation daily really helps that.
Well, and I think there's a level of like professionalism there. I always think of the movie 300 when the Spartan army is being compared to the Greek army, and the Greek army has thousands of soldiers and the Spartan army has 300. And the Greek guy says, man, I thought you were going to bring, like, we brought more soldiers. I thought you were serious about fighting. They do this, the Spartan guys do this chant, and man, what's the guy's name? What's the Gerard Butler. What's his name, though, in the movie? Leonidas. So Leonidas goes, see, I brought more soldiers than you did. They were all professionals in that. Like, I think, like, when they say this is what we do, like, as a high school coach, as a college coach, like take pride, ownership in the fact that like this practice plan, man, like it is going to make our players better. There's no wasted time. And you're right. When you have those opportunities to learn that, man, what we're doing is pretty darn good. Yeah, that's okay to feel good about that.
Sure. Absolutely.
I've gone different ways or back and forth on early on, maybe in coaching, all typed out with the times. And then there's also been years, and maybe this comes with being pretty simple with what we do, having 5 or 6 things that is written down that I know I want to achieve, but not really a time, going a little bit more on feel. I do like that idea of not being shackled to a time. But Coach, the problem with that though is you can go too long in something. Maybe you need that accountability of what's next on the plan and the time to keep you moving. But I don't know. For those coaches that maybe hear how organized you are with it, that is a great way to do it. And I've done that. Also fooled around with whiteboard. Here are my things that I know we have to get done today. And I'm okay with dabbling and staying in some longer. But that's maybe the fun or the art of coaching, right?
Absolutely. And that's what I will do. I probably are kind of like you. I'll write down, I'll start off with on a piece of notebook paper, 4 or 5 things that I feel like on that day we need to work on. And then I translate that to what drills, how much time we need to accomplish all those, And so that's kind of, a lot of times I'll be driving home and I'll just start making notes. Hey, tomorrow we've got to do, no dribble cut throw. What do we need to do to kind of rep that before we get into that version? And so that's kind of, we're probably all the same. And then, my just personality and being a little OCD helps me. I was like, I need to know what's that time. And it's funny, the girls, they come out to practice, and they first thing they do is go over to the practice plan and they know what time. And then also Coach Perkins, our boys basketball coach, he practices right after us. So he'll come in there and he'll know exactly what time I'm going to be done. And so it's kind of, like I said, it's kind of fun to just kind of do that. But, everybody, they're going to do what they're comfortable with for the most part. And I save all my practice plans. They start on a Google Doc. So I can go back this year and look, every plan, here's what we did. And if we have a great practice then the next week I might say, hey, what drills do we do for there? I'll just pull it up real quick, transfer it over. And that's pretty simple as well.
Man, that's a great way to carry over some of the things that you liked and that you need to continue with, but then also be able to add to and make sure that you're not just copying and pasting the exact same practice plan, because every season is different. But that doesn't mean we have to start from square one completely over. There are some things from year to year that you think, golly, like we did a lot of 3-on-3 with no dribbles and running an offense that is primarily off the bounce, a 5-out kind of flow and creating double, triple gaps. The 3-on-3 without a dribble doesn't make a lot of sense, but it made us tougher defensively. It made us move better offensively and have more instincts instead of maybe sometimes my guys can stand too long while we're watching one guy pound it, waiting for him to create. Well, what if there's a great back cut option? Like how do we actually get them seeing that instinctively? That's a game. But like we weren't doing that a year ago, but next year I want to carry that over. But there's going to be new things with this new team that we need to add in that we didn't do this year.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the JAMODI podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.